The following story, Watchmen Chapter 1, has been rated 18 plus for violence, foul language, blood and gore, and sexual content. Great story, but viewer discretion is advised. Watchmen. Written by Alan Moore. Illustrated by Dave Gibson. Colored by John Higgins. Voiced by Seth Peoples. Chapter 1.
Warshark's Journal, October 12th, 1985. Dog carcass in alley this morning. Diarrhea up burst stomach. The city is afraid of me. I've seen its true face. The streets are extended gutters, and the gutters are full of blood. And when the drains finally scab over, all the vermin will drown. The accumulated filth and all of their sex and murder will foam up above their waists, and all the whores and politicians will look up and shout, "Save us!" And I'll look down and whisper, "No." They all had a chance. All of them. They could have followed in the footsteps of good men like my father or President Truman. Decent men who believe in a day's work for a day's pay. Instead, they followed the droppings of leechers and communists and didn't realize that they're trying to lead over a precipice until it was too late. Don't tell me they didn't have a choice. Now the whole world stands on the brink, staring down into bloody hell. All those liberals and intellectuals and smooth talkers. And all of a sudden, nobody can think of anything to say.
That's quite a drop. Yeah, poor guy. You know, I always wonder, do you think you black out before you hit the sidewalk or what? Frankly, I don't need to know that bad. What do you think happened here? Well, looks like somebody broke in by busting this door down. That would take either two guys or one guy on serious drugs, because the door had a chain fastened on the inside. Which means the occupant was home when it happened. I saw the body, and he looked beefy enough to protect himself. For a guy his age, he was in terrific shape. What? You mean apart from being dead? No, I mean this guy, this Blake guy. The occupant, he had muscles like a weightlifter. He would have put some kind of fight, I'm certain. Yeah, well, looks like he lost. Maybe it was a couple guys, and they just overpowered him. Maybe. The data we have suggests he's been doing some sort of overseas diplomatic work for years. A lot of classy expense account living. Maybe he just got soft. He don't look too soft in this photograph. Wonder how he got that scar. It looks... Hey, the guy he's shaking hands with in the photo is Vice President Ford. Hey, so it is. Well, listen, between you and me, I think we can rule him out as a suspect. A job like this just isn't his style. That'd be real funny if we had any better leads to go on. I mean, what is this? A little money got stolen, but no way is this a straight burglary. Somebody really had it in for this guy. I mean, how did he go out of the window? Maybe he tripped against it. Forget it. That's strong glass, man. You trip against it, even a big guy like that, it don't break. I think you have to be thrown. Well, if this Edward Blake was as big as you say he was, then one guy would never lift him, so we're talking two aliases here. Which floor you on? Oh, ground floor, please. Ground floor. Coming up. So look, you haven't answered my question. Is this a burglary, or do we look for some other motive? Listen, it could have just been a burglary. Maybe a bunch of knock tops or KT-28s or looties. You know how it is. A lot of crazy things happen in a city this size. They don't all need motives. So what you're saying is, I'm saying let's not raise too much dust over this one. We don't need any masked Avengers getting interested in cutting in. Follow it up discreetly, sure. But in public? Well, let's say we let this one drop out of sight. I don't know. I think you take this vigilante stuff too seriously. Since the Knee Act was passed in 77, only the government-sponsored weirdos are active. They don't interfere. Screw them. What about Warshaw? Rorschach never retired, even after him and his buddies fell out of grace. Rorschach's still out there somewhere. He's crazier than a snake's armpit and wanted on 2 counts, murder 1. We got a cozy little homicide here. If he gets involved, we'll be up to our butts in corpses. What's the matter? Oh, nothing. Just a shiver. Must be getting cold. So, there I was, in the supermarket, buying dog food for old Phantom here. I turned the corner of the aisle and wham! I bump into the screaming skull. You remember him? I think I heard you mention him. Oh, I put him away a dozen times in the 40s. But he reformed. And turned to Jesus since then. Married, got 2 kids. We traded dresses. Nice guy. Hollis, listen. It's almost midnight. I ought to go. Oh, sure. Lost track of time there. Talk about all the old stuff. You must have been bored as hell. You know better than that. Saturday night beer sessions are what keeps me going. Yeah, well, us old retired guys gotta stick together. Let me put this out and I'll be right with you. You know, it was a crying shame to put you youngsters to grass in 77. You were a better night owl than I ever was. Hollis, we both know that's bullshit, but thanks anyway. Hey, watch with the language. This is the left hook that floored Captain Axis, remember? How could I forget? Thanks for another great night, Hollis. Take care of yourself. You too, Danny. God bless. Look down your back stairs, buddy. Somebody's living there, and they don't really feel the weather.
Hello, Daniel. Go hungry, Raiden. Help myself to some beans. Hope you don't mind.
Rorschach? That is... no, of course, I don't mind. You want me to heat those up for you or anything?
No need. Fine like this.
So, long time no see. How, have you been keeping?
Out of prison so far. Take a look at this.
What is it? This little stand. Is that bean juice or...
That's right. Human bean juice. Badge belonged to the comedian. Blood too. He's dead.
Dead? What? You're talking about the comedian?
Investigated a routine homicide. Victim named Edward Blake. Found the costume in Blake's wardrobe. Seems he was the comedian.
Somebody... listen. Maybe we could talk about this down in my workshop. I feel kind of exposed up here. Also, that way you can use the hidden rear exit, when you leave, that is. Right down this way. You haven't been down here for a while.
Neither have you. A lot of dust.
Yeah, well, you know. Sometimes I come and sit down here for a while. But there doesn't seem much point since I retired. Listen, about the comedian. Might it just have been an ordinary burglary? Or something? Maybe the killer didn't know who Blake was.
An ordinary burglary? Kill the comedian? Ridiculous.
I guess it doesn't seem very likely. I heard he's been working for the government since 77, knocking over Marxist republics in South America. Maybe this was a political killing?
Maybe. Or maybe someone's picking off costume heroes.
Don't you think that's maybe a little paranoid?
That's what they're saying about me now? That I'm paranoid? The comedian was active for 40 years. Men make a lot of enemies in that time. How's your friend Hollis Mason these days?
Hollis. What does he...
They were both Minutemen when Blake was 16 and Mason was the first night owl. That book Mason wrote, he said some bad things about the comedian in it.
Warshak, I don't like what you're applying here. Hollis is an old man. If you're thinking about going over there and scaring him...
Implying nothing. Just an observation. Anyway, thought I'll let you know, in case somebody's gunning for masks. Better go now. Things to do.
Yeah, well, the tunnel bringing you out in the warehouse, 2 blocks north.
Yes, I remember. Used to come here often, back when we were partners.
Oh, yeah. Those were great times, Warshak. Great times. Whatever happened to them?
You quit. Warshak's Journal, October 13th, 1985. Slept all day. Awoke at 4:37. Landlady complaining about smell. She has 5 children by 5 different fathers. I am sure she's cheated on welfare. Soon it will be dark. Beneath me, this awful city, it screams like an abattoir full of retarded children. New York. On Friday night, a comedian died in New York. Somebody knows why. Down there, somebody knows. The dusk reeks of fornication and bad consciences. I believe I shall take my exercise.
Warshak, how you feeling?
I'm fine, Happy Harry. Yourself?
Fine. I'm fine, and I'm glad you're fine too. And oh God, please don't kill anybody, please.
Guy went sidewalk diving Friday night. I don't think he was alone when it happened. Name was Edward Blake. Friend of mine.
Hey, you hear that? He's got friends. Must have changed his deodorant. Steve, for God's sake, man, shut up.
I gotta take a leak.
Hey, I didn't mean anything. I haven't been in the apple too long, and hey, what?
Ah! I just broke this little gentleman's little finger. Who killed Edward Blake? And his index finger. Who killed Edward Blake?
Please, we don't know. Oh, God, man, leave him alone.
First visit of evening fruitless. Nobody knew anything. Feel slightly depressed. The city is dying of rabies. It is the best I can do to wipe random flocks of foam from its lips. Never despair and never surrender. I'll leave the human cockroaches to discuss their heroin and child pornography. I have business elsewhere with a better class of person.
The comedian dead. But why?
You're always supposed to be the world's smartest man, Vedit. You tell me.
I never claimed to be anybody special, Warshak. I just have some other enthusiastic PR men. Listen, could it have been a political killing? Maybe the Soviets?
Duryberg said the same thing. Don't believe it. America has Dr. Manhattan. Reds have been running scared since 65. They will never dare antagonize us. I think we've got a mass killer.
Not necessarily. The comedian had plenty of other political enemies to choose from, even discontinuing the Russians. The man was practically a Nazi.
He stood up for his country, Vita. He never let anybody retire him. Never cashed in on his reputation. Never set up a company selling posters and diet books and toy soldiers based on himself. Never became a prostitute. If that makes him a Nazi, well, might as well call me a Nazi too.
Rorschach, I know we were never friends, but even so, you're being unfair. Nobody retired me. I chose to quit adventuring and go public 2 years before the police strike made the NEAC necessary.
Yes, good timing. I came here to warn you about the mass killer, so you didn't end up smartest man in the morgue. But I guess there's worse things to end up as. Be seeing you.
Sure. Have a nice day.
Rorschach's Journal, October 13th, 1985. 8:30 p.m. Meeting with Vita left bad taste in mouth. He is pampered and delicate, betraying even his own shallow liberal affections. Possibly homosexual? Must remember to investigate further. Dewey Berg has bad. A flabby failure who sits whimpering in his basement. Or are so few of us left active, healthy, and without personality disorders. The first night owl runs an auto repair shop. The first silk specter is a bloated, aging whore, dying in a Californian rest resort. Catman Metropolis was decapitated in a car crash back in 1974. Martha Man's in an asylum up in Maine. The silhouette retired in disgrace, murdered 6 weeks later by a minor adversary seeking revenge. Dollar Bill got shot. Her of Justice went missing in 55. The comedian is dead. Only 2 names remaining on my list. Both share private quarters at Rockefeller Military Research Center. I shall go to them. I shall go and tell the indestructible man that someone plans to murder him.
Good evening, Rorschach.
Good evening, Dr. Manhattan.
What are you doing here, Rorschach? This is a government base, and I hear you wanted by the police.
Good evening, Miss Jupiter.
That's Use Check Jupiter. Was just a name my mother assumed because she didn't want anyone to know she was Polish. You haven't answered my question.
Apologies. Come to warn you both and bring bad news. The comedian is dead.
Yes. Since he and I are the only 2 extra-normal operatives currently employed by the government, I was informed on Saturday morning. I understand the CIA suspects, the Libyans, were responsible.
Have my own theory on that. Take it you're not too concerned about Blake's death.
A live body and a dead body contain the same number of particles. Structurally, there's no discredible difference. Life and death are quantifiable abstracts. Why should I be concerned? Anyway, it couldn't have happened to a nicer person. Blake was a bastard. He was a monster, you know. He tried to rape my mother back when they were both Minutemen.
Huh. So you support the allegations made in Hollis Mason's book concerning Blake?
What Mason said in Under the Hood is what happened. God knows I'm not my mother's biggest admirer, but some things shouldn't happen to anybody. Why do you think Blake never sued Mason?
I'm not here to speculate on the moral lapse of men who died in their country's service. I came to warn.
Moral lapse? Rape is a moral lapse? You know he broke her ribs. You know he almost choked her. John, get this creep out of here. You seem to be upsetting Lori. I think you ought to go.
With respect, Dr. Manhattan, I warned Vita and Durberry, and I intend to warn you and your lady friend. I believe somebody is eliminating mass Avengers. Possibly some old foe with a grudge. I believe...
I said, I think you ought to go.
No, I spent a lot of time getting in to see you, not leaving before I had my say.
He's gone. Are you still upset? Yeah, I just don't like Rorschach. He's sick. He's sick in his mind. I don't like the way he smells or that horrible monotone voice or anything. The sooner police put him away, the better. John? Yes, Lori? I was just thinking that I might be really edgy to let a maggot like Rorschach get to me like that. I just feel cooped up sometimes. Maybe I could use a night out. You know, Rorschach mentioned Dan Drieberg. We haven't seen Dan in years. Maybe I'll call him up, ask him out to dinner. If you don't mind, that is. Of course not. I'll join you, but I think I'm close to locating a gluino, which would completely validate supersymmetrical theory if we could include it in the BCA. That's fascinating. I'll call Dan. Hello? Dan? Lori. Lori Jusbeck. I'm fine. How are you? Great. Listen, I just remember I haven't seen you in ages and wondered if we could have some dinner sometime. Well, how about tonight? Raffley's at 9:30? That's terrific. John? Oh, yeah. Yeah, John's in pretty good shape. All right, see you later, Dan. Bye.
Rorschach's Journal, October 13th, 1985, 11:30 p.m. A Friday night, a comedian died in New York. Somebody threw him out of a window, and when he hit the sidewalk, his head was driven up into his stomach. Nobody cares. Nobody cares but me. Are they right? Is it futile? Soon there will be war. Millions will burn. Millions will perish in sickness and misery. Why does one death matter against so many? Because there is good and there is evil, and evil must be punished, even in the face of Armageddon. I shall not compromise in this. But there are so many deserving retribution, and there is so little time.
Well, it's getting pretty late. It's been a great evening, Lori. You sure you won't let me pick up the tab? Nah, if I'm going to be a kept woman for the military's secret weapon, then the military can stand me a bowl of spaghetti alfraccini every once in a while. Hey, you sound bitter. Not really. It's just that the only reason I'm kept around is to keep John relaxed and happy. Is everything okay with you and John? Me and John? Oh, yeah, everything's fine. It couldn't be better. I just keep thinking, I'm 35. What have I done? I spent 8 years in semi-retirement, preceded by 10 years running around in a stupid costume because my stupid mother wanted me to. You remember that costume? With a stupid little short skirt and the neckline going down to my navel? God, it was so dreadful. God, yes. Dreadful. You know, when I think back, why do we do it? Why do we dress up like that? The Nia Act was the best thing that ever happened to us. Yeah, you're probably right. Hey, you remember that one guy? The one who pretended to be a supervillain so he could get beaten up? Oh, you mean Captain Carnage? He was one for the books. You're telling me. I remember I caught him coming out of this jeweler's. I didn't know what his racket was. I started hitting him, and I think, geez, he's really funny. Does he have asthma? He tried that with me, only I heard about him, so I just walked away. He followed me down the street, broad daylight, right? He's saying, punish me. I'm saying, no, get lost. What happened to him? Well, he pulled it on Rorschach, and Rorschach dropped him down an elevator shaft. Oh my God, I'm sorry, that's not funny. No, I guess it's not. Jeez, that felt good. There don't seem to be so many laughs around these days. Well, What do you expect? The comedian is dead. At midnight, all the agents of the superhero crew go out and around up everyone who knows more than they do. Bob Dylan.